go on a journey now to the moon and back. And with that, let me introduce to you Zohar, Chairman of SpaceIL, and Yariv, Founder and CEO of SpaceIL.
So, thank you all. I will let Yariv tell the story of SpaceIL. He started with the story. I'm just helping him. But personally, I believe that SpaceIL today is the most interesting story out of Israel. I met Yariv about a year ago, and I'm meeting many startups. I presented in the Israel conference last year my company Amobee, and since then we sold it for a huge amount of money. So I'm meeting many startups, and I met Yariv, and I was sure he's going to introduce to me yet another application that no one cares about, or the Jewish brain developing some kind of sensor that will post on Facebook when you are going to the toilet, or some other unnecessary solution. And Yariv told me, I'm going to build a spaceship and send it to the moon. So Yariv and his team, they are going to put the Israel to be the third on the moon, the third nation after US and USSR, or Russia today. So they're going to do it as a non-profit organization. They're going to win the Google X Prize, the NASA X Prize, a lot of money, give all of that to education in Israel, to scientific education. And today, you know, Israel is in a lot of trouble. The startup nation is a nice fairy tale, but it happened 20 years ago. And actually, according to the latest OECD, Israel is the only nation in the world where education in this generation is lower than in the last generation. And I believe that project like Yariv project, and actually this project, can change it all and can put us on the moon, but give us back the motivation to be scientists, to build rockets, to do what we can. And I believe that Yariv is the startup nation 2.0. And that's why I'm involved, and that's why I want all of you to be involved in this project, because we are going to the moon, and our flag is going to be the third one on the moon. So Yariv, please.
Thank you, Zohar. Well, we'll just start with a very short movie. This is an experiment we did last year, almost a year ago. We should do another one, it was quite fun. That was the first time that a non-defense related organization was allowed to do something like that in Israel. The Hamas, of course, doesn't ask for permission. That's the parachute release, and now the payload is stabilizing and going down. This is where we tested one of our new concepts that will be used on the spaceship. We're using optical navigation instead of a bulky radar system that is currently used on space missions. When we went to the space industry in Israel and asked how much would an experiment like that cost, they have to close the entire airspace around you, the air region around you, you have to put guards around, you have to do all the experiments before that to make sure that everything is working. We got a quote of a few $100,000. That thing costs us 5,000 shekels and volunteers. So that's the ratio between doing things at SpaceIL and doing things with the industry, with the space industry. Our mission is quite simple: landing the first Israeli spaceship on the moon by 2015. Sharona mentioned that we're sending someone to the moon. Well, it's not someone, it's going to be all of us. We're all going to the moon. It's a robotic craft about this height, and we want the entire Jewish nation and Israeli nation to be part of our mission. SpaceIL is sending a very small spaceship to the moon, but our goals are much bigger than that. We want a small spaceship to make a huge change for Israel. We believe that science, technology should be part of the Israeli vision. Zohar mentioned it today, it's a problem not only in Israel, in the entire Western world. Kids today are less inclined to go study engineering, science, math, and we're there to help. We like to say that if I can impact 5% of the Israeli kids with my mission, I've won way before going to the moon. If I can make 5% of the Israeli kids turn towards science and engineering, we'll have the next generation of startup nation 20 years from now. That's our vision, that's our goal. Besides inspiring kids to science and technology, we're also promoting science and technology itself. One of our board members, Professor Ben Israel, is also the chairman of the Israeli Space Agency, told us that for him, SpaceIL is the first sparrow or the arrowhead of something that could become a new industry in Israel, a civilian space industry. So you'll have your high-tech industry that came from units like 8200, another intelligence corp unit. And today we're spearheading a new industry that will come out of the military space industry that is currently one of the leading ones based in Israel. We're also promoting Israel's image. It's a great story about Israel. It's not why we're right and they're wrong. It's just Israel becoming the third nation or the third empire to land on the moon. Prior to that, only the Soviet Union and, of course, the US landed on the moon. And besides that, we're also part of a competition called the Google Lunar X Prize competition, which we're, of course, going to win. So, I will get to that in a few slides. So, where is SpaceIL today? We started off a year and a half ago, 3 entrepreneurs, going to the office of Professor Ben Israel, the head of the Israeli Space Agency, and talking with him dead seriously about sending an Israeli spaceship to the moon. Instead of throwing us out of the room, shouting and screaming, he told us, I'm with you, and today the Israeli Space Agency has pledged $2.5 million to our project, which shows how serious they take our project. So we started a year and a half ago. Today we're a national project or a project of national importance. We're a private entity, a non-profit in Israel. This picture was taken half a year ago in the Israeli aerospace industries. Shimon Peres, Rona Ramon, the wife of the late astronaut Ilan Ramon, some of our volunteers. We've got more than 150 team members. Most of them are volunteers, all joining hands in the Israeli aerospace industry to making sure that Israel is going to land on the moon. For us, that was a turning point when we understood that we have the eyes of an entire nation looking at us, waiting for us to land on the moon. It's a serious task.
Shimon Peres is very much involved in the project. He really believer of this project. And actually, if anyone in this room wants to contribute us $4 million, he's going to get a detailed spaceship, the same size of the real spaceship, signed by Shimon Peres. He doesn't know about it yet, but I'm sure he will sign it. So if anyone wants, you can sell it on eBay for a lot of money.
But you're not allowed to send it to the moon. Only we can do that. So SpaceIL works with a lot of partners. We've, in the past year and a half, we collaborated with a lot of partners. The Israeli aerospace industry, for instance, has pledged $3.5 million support in engineering hours, in facilities, in testing equipment. You can't really build a spaceship in Israel without IAI, and luckily we have them on our side. Elbit as well. We went to the CEO of Elbit, and he just said, after 10 minutes of presentation, he told us, guys, I'm with you. What do you need? We told him, we need from Elbit all the electro-optics system. He told, you're going to get it for free. That's the level of support that we're receiving from Israel. Our offices are Tel Aviv University. We've got scientists from the Technion. The Weizmann Institute is, we've got some amazing people, scientists and professors from the Weizmann Institute helping us out. The Israeli Space Agency is supporting us. As I told you, our number one volunteer or team member is the number one citizen of Israel. President Peres is with us. The Ramon Foundation, they believe that we can make a change in Israel. That's why they've partnered with us. We're going to get to that in a few slides. SpaceIL has a lot of educational programs running. We want to impact kids way before we land the moon. All the logos up there are also our educational partners for success. We've also managed to build a very strong public board. Our Israeli chairman is Yanki Margalit, former founder of Aladdin. Our US chairman is Zohar. We have Rona Ramon. We have Aryeh Alsband. He was the former director of the space facility in IAI. He knows how to build spaceships, so it's good to have him on our side. We've got the president of the Weizmann Institute, the president of Tel Aviv University. This is a national effort, and we're bringing everyone who can help us to the mission.
Yeah, and just something relevant to you guys in Los Angeles. 5 minutes ago, we added to our board Jimmy, who used to be the mayor of Beverly Hills. And very soon we are going to announce 2 major CEOs in the US who are joining the US board. So it is going. We are going to the moon.
Well, we are part of a competition. And the competition started more than 3 years ago. As good Israelis, we registered on the last day possible to the competition. Well, registration was $50,000. We raised that in like 10 days. It was crazy. And we registered on the last day. It was really, we have a picture of the three of us clicking the mouse at the bank to wire the money to Google. Since then, a few teams dropped out of the race. But when you start to really investigate and go to the websites of all our competitors and doing some business intelligence activities, we are Israelis, you realize that there are only 3 competitors, real strong competitors at the race. So right now, Israel is competing with 2 commercial entities for the finish line of landing a spaceship on the moon by 2015. The image below is, by the way, some of our volunteers in the clean room facility of IAI. That's where the building of the spaceship will start next year. A little bit
by the way, about that, I visited NASA at Ames next to Palo Alto recently, and they really believe that SpaceIL is going to win this competition. They really believe in this project, and actually, assuming we will win, they are going to give us a huge project to continue after we land on the moon.
Actually, Jonathan, one of my 2 partners, will be next week at NASA Ames just for that, receiving information from NASA. After all, there's only one organization on Earth that has information about landing on the moon, and luckily they're very supportive of SpaceIL. A little bit about how you design a spaceship. That's our current design. Like a radar image of it. It's going to be covered with something called MLI, multi-layer insulation. Here you can see the inside of the spaceship. What we're going to do is catch a ride. You can piggyback your way to space. And we're going to catch a ride to Earth's orbit. That's the green circle around Earth. It's not sun, it's Earth. And from there, we have to use our own propulsion system to take us all the way to the moon. That's the yellow, red, blue line that takes you all the way to the spiral. We get a ride to roughly 200 to 500 miles above Earth, about on Earth's orbit. From there, we have to travel for 200,000 miles all the way to the moon and perform a really complicated landing. You have to land your craft on the moon. You can't crash on it. You have to land, send back images, videos, an image, of course, of the spaceship with the Israeli flag on it, or else nobody will believe you really went to the moon. So that's our way to the moon. I talked about the first part, catching a ride. Well, luckily for us today, you can catch your way to the moon, to Earth's orbit. To your left, you see a canopy, a white canopy that covers a full-size satellite. Your regular communication satellite or vision satellite works for 10, 15 years, weighs a few tons, and costs roughly $500 million. That's the cost of a communication satellite program. In the middle, you can see a yellow ring, and around it, you can see secondary payloads. A full-size satellite costs $500 million. The SpaceIL entire program cost $30 million in budget. So that's the ratio between sending a full-sized satellite and sending a small spaceship to the moon.
Yeah, and by the way, just to give you some numbers, because size doesn't matter in the US, but numbers are, it took NASA $400 billion to send the Apollo to the moon. We are going to do it for $27 million. So I believe we are quite good.
By the way, last time, not sure I updated you, last month we had a review of over 20 engineers from the Israeli aerospace industries, going over all our plans, our budget, and everything, making sure we're on course, making sure that we don't have any unanticipated problems. So far, they've pledged $3.5 million, so I guess we're on the right course. A bit about size. To your left, you can see the Apollo 11 lander. Next to it, you've got Neil Armstrong. And that little speck to the right, well, that's the Israeli spaceship. That's how small it's going to be. Most of it is going to be a propulsion system. It takes a lot of fuel to get you to the moon. It takes a lot of fuel to decelerate. I can't use parachutes. I can't use anything to stop me down. There's no atmosphere. I have to burn fuel to slow myself down from 2 miles per second to a complete stop on the moon. We'll go over, a little bit about how you design a spaceship. 7 small steps to designing a spaceship. It starts with good management. It continues with system engineering, making sure that people are using the same voltage all over the spaceship, the same nuts and bolts. It continues with the different modules, attitude control, optics, avionics, propulsion, thermal considerations. From there you go to the ground station. You must have a few ground stations to receive 24/7 coverage. Then you go to the assembly, integration, and testing. That's when the spaceship will go severe testing of shocks, thermal cycles, crazy things. They've got an amazing facility, the Israeli aerospace industries, which just tortures your spaceship. From there, it's the launcher integration. As I told you, we're catching a ride on a larger launcher, and you get a book when you sign the contract of all the things you have to stand to when you attach yourself to the launcher. And the last part is the mission. From the minute your spaceship leaves your lab until it goes up on the launcher and all the way to the moon. You must have a really ordered mission with all the possible junctions and making sure that you know what you do on each step. The big timeline, 2011 was the startup year when we raised all our partners, all our supporters. 2012, by the end of 2012, we're going to finish our funding. Right now, we've missing $15 million out of the 30, so we have a few slots for a few more supporters. 2013 and 14 will be the years of the construction, the testing, the assembly, all those parts. And by 2015, we're going to be launched on our way to the moon. Well, I started off by telling you that SpaceIL is an Israeli non-profit. We're an educational non-profit, and we're going to end by that. SpaceIL has a few programs in Israel already running. We've reached more than 12,000 kids in Israel. We're working on a nationwide program to impact all the kids of Israel with the Weizmann Institute. And I'm going to show you one small program, another program that we're running. These kids are from the President's Elite Kids of Israel. These are the future scientists of Israel. We gave them a real task. They are choosing where the Israeli spaceship will land on the moon. They've collaborated with NASA, and right now they're working on selecting a few spots that the Israeli spaceship would land. Now think about it, you're 14 years old, and you get to choose where the Israeli spaceship will land. Well, you're hooked for life on science, on space, on deep space exploration, and that's the impact that we want to give the entire kids of Israel with our mission. So SpaceIL is a national project supported by the president and the Israeli government. Our key objective is making Israel strong in the future. We've got full industry and governmental support. We're going to win the X Prize. And the spaceship is a tool. We like to say that it's a small spaceship that is going to make a huge change for Israel. 2015, we're going to land.
And last word, we are doing it because we enjoy it, because we love it, because we love Israel, and we are going to contribute everything to Israel that we will win. But we need your support. So any support can help. There is a guy who told me yesterday that he's going to sell T-shirts with a 2015, the Jewish Exodus to the moon. Michael Bale, he doesn't listen to me, but we can shape the spaceship as a Mickey Mouse, who is from Disney. So any crazy idea, any way to promote it, any way to contribute it, we want to hear about it.
Thank you.
Wow.
Well, first of all, it blows my mind. And I'd like to say that I think the Israel conference should be up there as one of those logos of the various ones that support it. So
$4 million.
$4 million. Well, can we afford that, guys?